What's the most selfish thing you've ever witnessed? I was babysitting my neighbor's 8-year-old Sophie when her mom Rachel came home from her third job at 11 p.m. Rachel was a single mom working as a nurse, cleaning lady, and weekend caterer just to keep their tiny apartment. That night, Sophie had been crying for 2 hours because she wanted the new iPhone all her classmates had. I'd watched this scene dozens of times before. Sophie would throw tantrums about designer clothes, expensive toys, anything her wealthier classmates flaunted on social media. Rachel would promise to save up, working herself into exhaustion, trying to give Sophie everything she demanded. Rachel knelt down, exhausted, and promised Sophie they'd start saving for a phone. Maybe by Christmas, baby. Sophie screamed that Christmas was too far away and ran to her room, slamming the door so hard their neighbor banged on the wall. Rachel sat on their thrift store couch and quietly cried into her hands. I noticed she hadn't eaten dinner again. The next day, I offered to take Sophie to the mall while Rachel slept between shifts. She'd pulled a double at the hospital and had 3 houses to clean. At the Apple store, Sophie threw herself on the floor when I said we were just looking. The tantrum was so bad that security came over. I was mortified, but then I noticed something that changed everything. A woman at the counter was buying the exact phone Sophie wanted. She had the same tired eyes as Rachel, counting out crumpled bills with trembling fingers. Behind her stood a boy about Sophie's age, bouncing with excitement, clutching a handmade birthday card. That's when Sophie noticed too. She stopped mid-scream and marched over to the woman. "My mom works harder than yours and I deserve that phone more," she announced loudly. The entire store went silent. Every customer turned to stare. The woman looked confused and hurt. I grabbed Sophie's arm and tried to apologize, but she wasn't done. She was just getting started. "Your son probably doesn't even need it. My mom is a nurse and saves people's lives." The boy started crying, asking his mother what he'd done wrong. His voice was so small and broken. The woman tried to comfort her son, explaining he'd done nothing wrong. That's when I overheard her tell the cashier she'd been saving for months, working overtime at a factory. The boy's father had died recently, and this was supposed to be his birthday surprise. Sophie heard every word. Instead of feeling ashamed, Sophie smiled like she'd won the lottery. "See, now they can't have it either. Maybe next time they'll know better." The woman's hands shook as she handed the phone back to the cashier. She took her sobbing son and left without another word. Sophie actually skipped beside me to the car, humming happily. "That felt really good," she said. "Now when we come back, there won't be any competition." I couldn't believe what I'd witnessed. When we got home, I told Rachel everything, word for word. She stared at Sophie for a long moment, her face cycling through disbelief and horror. Then she quietly said, "Pack a bag. You're staying with Grandma for a while." Sophie protested that she didn't do anything wrong. "I was just being honest. We do deserve it more." Rachel looked at her daughter like she was seeing a stranger and said, "I work 3 jobs so you can have a good heart, not just good things. I failed you completely." That night, I heard Rachel sobbing on the phone with her mother. She destroyed that little boy's happiness and felt proud of it. What kind of monster did I raise? Sophie moved in with Rachel's mother for the summer. Rachel used those months attending parenting classes and therapy. When Sophie came back in August, she was different. She'd spent 3 months doing farm chores with no allowance, no phone, no complaints. Her grandmother had made her volunteer at a children's grief center and write letters to the boy she'd hurt. Sophie's now 16 and volunteers at the same hospital where her mom works. She's never asked for another expensive gift. Last year, she used her part-time job money to buy Christmas presents for kids whose parents couldn't afford them. Rachel told me later that watching Sophie hurt another child was the moment she realized giving her daughter everything except boundaries had created a monster. The hardest thing she ever did was choose who Sophie could become over who she was.